Tanya, can you hear me?
Can hear you loud and clear, Mario.
Tanya, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Mario. Thank you.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
The House Chairperson.
There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. You may be seated. Order, honorable members. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. The order paper today is questions addressed to the ministers in Cluster 1, Peace and Security. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose a supplementary question on. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. This was done to facilitate participation of members who are connecting to the sitting through the virtual platform. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, among others, have been applied. If a member who is supposed to ask a supplementary question through the virtual platform is unable to do so due to technological difficulties, the party whip or on duty will be allowed to ask the question on behalf of their member. When all supplementary questions have been answered by the executive, we will proceed to the next question on the question paper. Honorable members, the first question today has been asked by the Honorable Ngola to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. The Honorable, the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The reply to the question is as follows. Our country has been an active and leading humanitarian role player in crisis situations around the world. One of the ways through which our government provides humanitarian support is through regular and consistent financial contributions to emergency humanitarian appeals from the United Nations, humanitarian agencies, and individual national governments faced with natural or man-made disasters. Our approach to conflict resolution is informed by our own history. Our experience in the peaceful resolution of apparently intractable conflicts compels us to participate in all efforts to alleviate the plight of peoples who are struggling to resolve similar conflicts. With respect to collaboration, we have been in discussion with agencies such as the Gift of the Givers, the International Red Cross, and other civil society organizations to identify opportunities for partnerships in facilitating humanitarian aid to Gaza and other parts of the Palestinian territories. We've also provided diplomatic support through liaison with the government of Egypt for NGOs to transport humanitarian aid into Gaza Strip through the Rafah crossing point. We do not, as South Africa, seek to prescribe nor impose our will on any peace process. We've always indicated our willingness to share our experience and to play a role, should it be wanted, in the Palestine-Israel conflict. In seeking to advance the Middle East peace process, our strategy includes intensifying our work with solidarity campaigns with non-governmental organizations, national parliaments, other governments, and with the United Nations system. Our efforts on the Palestinian question are on record, and everyone is aware of South Africa's government's position. Some of us will recall President Mandela's efforts in seeking to contribute to a peaceful negotiation of the conflict. Some will recall that our president, President Nelson Mandela, the first president of a free and democratic South Africa, undertook a visit to engage former Israeli Prime Minister Barak and the late President Yasser Arafat of Palestine. We hosted the 2002 Spear Initiative. We, of course, are keen that should there be a peace process, should we be invited, should our participation be sought, as South Africa, we would, of course, be ready to play a role. But the most important objective at this time is to end the killing. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Ngola.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Honorable Minister, how is the South African government utilizing its own diplomatic resources and influence to bring and contribute towards the solution in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? And what actions are being taken to ensure that humanitarian assistance reaches those in need in Gaza and the surrounding regions, particularly given the fact that there is a violent situation as we speak? So how is that humanitarian assistance reaching those in need? Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Well, thank you again, Chairperson. It's not been possible at this time for South Africa to make the contribution that it would like to in relieving the plight of Palestinians living both in the West Bank and in the Gaza territory. We have been working, as I say, with NGOs, particularly here in South Africa, one of them being Gift of the Givers, and assisting with communication with the government of Egypt that has allowed some aid to cross through the Rafah border crossing. We believe that much more must be done, but all of the members are aware that most trucks bearing humanitarian aid have been prevented from entering through the Rafah crossing. And in fact, some of the humanitarian aid trucks and aid workers have come under fire and have had to return into Egypt or give up the attempt to provide aid and to drive into the area in which help is necessary. So at this time, the most important step that we need to take is to continue our efforts as South Africa to encourage a cessation of hostilities and the opening up of safe corridors for the entry and transport of humanitarian aid. And South Africa continues to lend its support to these efforts.
Thank you. The next follow-up question will be from the Honorable Thring.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, yesterday you confirmed in this House that government's policy regarding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is to have a two-state solution. The ACGP believes that South Africa has a moral obligation to support a negotiated solution to the conflict and should distance itself, as I said yesterday, from a radicalized position on Israel in order to be seen as an honest broker. Now, after government's denials that you called Hamas leader, Mr. Haniyeh, and then confirmation that you did indeed call him, Minister, was there any similar call to your Israeli counterpart after the October 7 incursion, which would involve necessarily our diplomats? If yes, what are the details? And if no, why not? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Well, Madam Chairperson, I don't know how many times one would have to repeat this. The policy position of the government of South Africa has always been that there should be a two-state solution. This is something that the actions of Israel have clearly indicated is not desired by the government of Israel. But it is our belief and that of much of the world, including the majority of member states of the United Nations, that this is the only solution to achieving peace and security for the people of Israel and the people of Palestine. Now, with respect to this telephone call, which has got everybody here very abuzz, the Hamas leadership, which in fact is the government of Gaza, asked that they would like to speak to me. And given Mr. Thring's belief that South Africa should indeed play a role in seeking a peaceful resolution, that intention requires the ability and openness to talking to all parties, just as we advised with respect to Russia and Ukraine. Following that request from Hamas, I indeed had a call with them. I did dial the number which was provided by the Hamas leader's office because they could not dial directly into South Africa, given the bandwidth and other prohibitions at the time. So I spoke to that gentleman, Mr. Haniyeh. I did not express any support for the atrocious action that had occurred on the 7th of October. And it is that, Mr. Thring, that I have said is totally untrue, which has been peddled by a number of very negative persons who seek to twist the truth. So I hope that this is the final time that I'll have to again give an answer on this matter. Our interest as South Africa is to support the process toward a negotiated process between Israel and Palestine, led by Israelis and Palestinians, and supported by those who would initiate this process and any that may be invited. We hope South Africa would be party to that, but if we are not, if the process results in peace for both nations, we would be satisfied. I thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you.
Chairperson, a point of order, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I know that you'll probably rule me out of order, but the minister did not answer the direct question whether she phoned the Israeli government as well as she phoned Hamas in the attempt to obtain peace. I think that would be good to hear from the Honourable Minister as well. Thank you.
I'm not going to ask the minister The minister responded. I actually gave her more time out of the 2 minutes so that as she requests, the question should not be asked
Chair, give her a
again.
few more minutes. I'm sure she'd like to respond to that.
Thank you, Honorable Swart. Mhlonishwa Kwankwa, you are the next.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Minister, in view of the fact that South Africa's mediation efforts between Palestine and Israel, as you already indicated, started way back during the Madiba years. Even the most significant Spear Peace Initiative in 2002, which you also cited, did not give us the desired outcome because at the time, Israel perceived South Africa to be pro-Palestine to some extent. With that in mind, is it not prudent perhaps to make sure that we have a continental approach or mediation effort to this crisis by making South Africa probably proposing to the AU that we need to have an AU delegation that will visit both states in order to try and mediate in this conflict? Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, to the Honorable Kwankwa. That would be something that I would put at his suggestion to colleagues in the Executive Council of the African Union, and perhaps get a sense as to whether there would be any interest in such a step. I think South Africa is pro-Palestine, as I explained yesterday, in that the people of South Africa have always, in their posture with respect to values and principles, have always been concerned about the oppressed and about assisting the oppressed to achieve freedom, just as we eventually achieved our own freedom. Hence, our seemingly overbearing to some members support for Palestine is due to the fact that they are the ones that exist and live under oppression and injustice. However, being the very fair people that we are, we recognize the right of Israel to exist. Hence, our belief that the only way to achieve peace is through a two-state solution. And I repeat, for the sake of the Honorable Swartz, that it was Hamas's leaders that asked me to have a phone call conversation with them. I have never received such a request from any personality in Israel. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Sheikh Imam, you are answered. You are lucky. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Minister, it seems to be a criminal offense if you had to speak to Hamas or Hamas leaders in trying to find common ground and a solution, while others can communicate with a criminal, a fraudster, a corrupter, where hundreds of thousands of people are protesting to remove him from office. But coming back to the state in Palestine, there is a serious problem, Honorable Minister. What intervention can you put in place on approximately 500 babies at a time that cannot be delivered as a result of the lack of anesthetic because of the restrictions put by the Israeli government? And further to that, should humanitarian aid be allowed, will you consider speaking to your colleagues in the Department of Health to provide some levels of anesthetic and, more importantly, medical experts, specialists, doctors, healthcare workers to try and alleviate the problems from a health perspective in Palestine? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the Honorable Sheikh. We have been deliberating for some time in the department, along with the NGOs and international organizations I referred to, as to how we as South Africa may be of assistance. And I'm very glad that I've been informed by the Actonville branch of the ANC that they will be hosting a fundraising meeting in which contributions that will be directed towards support of the suffering people of Palestine has been arranged by that particular branch of the African National Congress. Now, we have identified that certainly health, equipment, and human resources are the first line of support that are required. But added to that, many children in Palestine and Gaza are starving today. So food items are certainly increasingly urgently necessary. Many are dying of thirst. Water is not available. And we all know that hospitals can no longer carry out operations because there is no fuel provided to them. These are people who exist in an environment in which it is only possible for them to have basic necessities only if they are permitted to have them by the state of Israel. And we must do all we can in our limited means to provide assistance, and we will try to do so as the opportunities open up and once the proper procedures in South African statutory requirements have been satisfied. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. We proceed now, honorable members, to question 629, asked to the Minister of Police by the Honorable Majosi. The Deputy Minister is in the House to respond to all the questions directed at the Minister of Police. Thank you. Honorable Deputy Minister.
No, thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Honorable Majosi, for the question. Members of the South African Police Service, Diepkloof Police Station in particular, did not form part of the Operation Dudula raids on foreign-owned shops in Diepkloof. According to SAP's records, no fatalities of children due to consumption of expired product purchased from foreign-owned spaza stores, food in Diepkloof were reported. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Mama Johnson.
No, thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Honorable Deputy Minister, are there any plans in place for the Department of Police to work in collaboration with the Department of Home Affairs and the Department of Small Business together with the provincial government and local government so that we don't have a duplication of work to clamp down on the issue of illegal migrants owning shops, as this has the potential to greatly impact the economy, especially considering that undocumented immigrants will also not be able to register to pay taxes. Thank you.
The Honorable the Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the follow-up question. Yes, indeed, we do work with other departments in dealing with business of this kind by people who operate businesses without the necessary documentation. The departments are generally involved. Department of Home Affairs to deal with foreign nationals. We do also involve the Department of Health through SAPRA to deal with issues of health-related matters in the sale of these goods. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Peacock, the opportunity is yours.
Thank you, House Chair. DM, the illegal operation of shops and selling of expired goods requires a collaborative approach by government as it involves other departments, including the enforcement of municipal bylaws. What is the level of collaboration in governance or in government to deal with the illegal ownership of shops and selling of expired goods? I thank you.
Thank you. The Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Peacock. Yes, indeed, like I said, Chairperson, that the department does work collaboratively with other departments in this specific space. We also do involve brand South Africa, who are able to assist us as we deal with illegal trade
in this regard, working together with local municipalities and provincial governments, because we believe we do need a collaborative approach to deal with these issues, because SAPS on its own might not be able to deal with the said issues without collaborating with other departments. Thanks very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you. Maruti Mishwe, sebaka ke sa lena.
Ke a leboga, Mme Bodulasetulo. Thank you, Deputy Minister, for your response. It is a well-known fact that vigilantism flourishes where citizens do not trust their justice system, particularly the police. Rural and township residents have been complaining about spaza shops owned by illegal immigrants who bribe some police officers and seem to be getting away with selling expired food. Some residents even complain about illicit drugs that are being sold to children from some of these shops. As a minister responsible for law and order in the country, how do you respond to the above? And what should unhappy and frustrated citizens do when they see some police officers receiving free goods and money from the illegal spaza shop owners who are known to be selling drugs and breaking the law? Thank you.
Ke kgotse ke moya wa kereke gore ke go tlogele o fete 1 minute. E ska tlhola e etsega gape.
Ke a leboga, mme.
No, thanks very much, Chairperson, and thanks for a follow-up question, Baruti. As the South African police, we don't appreciate police officers who collaborate with wrongdoers and also accept kickbacks or bribes. We have always appealed to our communities that in instances where crime is committed by law enforcement officers, these matters must be brought to our attention, either through IPID or the Civilian Secretariat or the Hawks, so that we deal with those amongst us who are involved in illegal activities. Yes, indeed, there are instances where communities take the law into their own hands because they perceive police not doing what is necessary to deal with criminality. But we have always responded when we have officers who engage in activities that are not appropriate. Foreign nationals who are engaged in illegal activities, we have acted on that as well. So we are confident, Chairperson, that the approach that we have taken to deal with illegal trade and people who engage in criminalities, both who wear uniform and those who are perpetrators, we deal with them and will continue to do so. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable Kwankwa.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The question really, Minister, I think to a large extent, the multidisciplinary or departmental approach that you say your government is taking is actually noted. But I think, do you not think rather that the time then has come, since this is a crisis of titanic proportions? I mean, in Kaiskamauk, where I was last weekend, there are kids who have died because they ate these expired goods. Some are hospitalized at SS Kida Hospital, and it's widespread. Is it not important then for the Department of Police to set up a national task team to deal with this matter so that reports can be made on a regular basis about progress that is being made with regards to the clampdown when it comes to sale of illegal goods and the operation of illegal spaza shops, as well as whether people have been arrested for that? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable TM.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kwankwa. Chairperson, indeed, as a department, we have responded to the continued illegality or criminality taking place in our country. As we speak today, we have a program called Operation Chanela, which is a multidisciplinary response to challenges of crime in the country that focuses not only on spaza shop or people trading in expired goods, but criminality broadly. And we're quite confident that through this program, we will be able to make an inroad in the challenges that are faced by our country in this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We proceed to the next question, which is question 615, asked to the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, ke Kgoshigadi Mothapo.
Ke a leboga, Mme Motshwaramarapo. The strategic defense packages of the late 1990s did not include the landward defense capability. It was generally accepted that the army would be funded through a multi-year long-term project which would be provided through the special defense account. Among these, we thought would be the projects across the defense, which would also be looking at all the other matters which the SCAMP had not included in the 1998 procurement process. Now, SCAMP funding largely went through the DINEL and the other different defense industry players. In 2003, 19 projects and 3 upgrades were registered, the biggest being Project Hoof Easter, which was intended to acquire a new infantry combat vehicle at a projected cost of 16 billion. 14.1 billion was set aside for this, but later taken away to address other government priorities. Later on, 7 billion meant for the project was made available. And this money was paid through the different subcontractors. For instance, Reutech got about 1.44 billion for the radios. And this went like that towards the other capabilities which we thought would go into the finished rattle once it was completed. We then have been involved with Treasury. Firstly, acknowledging that in the meantime, the landward systems are all but gone. We acknowledge that the Army has been hard at work to try and maintain and upgrade. And that for the logistics and transport for the materials and personnel, the Army itself has done a fantastic job of trying to upgrade and maintain what was old. But we have been involved in talking with the Treasury on the matter. We have been hard at work in trying to address the issues within DINEL. One of the demands we have made was that DINEL has to come back from where it is located so that it is closer to us, so that we can more directly supervise the money intended for the upgrades, renewal, and so on and so forth of the defense. We have largely been able to come together, address the issues, and to reduce the earlier estimates of trying to get 264 of the vehicles for the defense and reduce them to 100. We have pushed AMSCO to follow the money that they put into the defense industry. We have had several meetings. We have put the project Hoof Easter back onto the space, but it is going very slowly. It is not completed. We continue to engage with Treasury. We think that there is something in the OFIM because we have been promised some money and we intend to make sure that that money that will come to us from Treasury goes into the projects and completes this project. We have also for the first time been given the the reimbursement from the UN straight into the defense, and we intend to take this money and put it into the completion of this. So we do intend to make sure that this particular project gets finalized and finds its place into the matters of defense, especially because now more than ever, we need to be able to project that South Africa is able to protect herself. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Reminder, 4 minutes. ICT, help us again by just muting everybody whose mic is open there. There are certain sounds that come from these virtual platforms. Please. Mmele Mkhwase. Mmele Mkhwase, tswela pele, o arabe, o botse potso.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Minister, can you provide an update on the specific outcomes achieved so far and the remaining challenges to be addressed to adequately fund and upgrade the capability of the South African Army Infantry Formation for the 2023-24 annual performance plan? Thank you very much.
Chair, perhaps because I was too long, I tried to get into that we have reduced our estimates, that we have therefore been able to negotiate a smaller package through Treasury, that we have been promised $1 billion plus, and that we are going to divert the money that we have received from the reimbursement from the UN into. That we're also following up with the defense industry to get all the money that we paid in but have not received the goods to be either returned or the upgraded versions of whatever we wanted many years ago to be made available to ready a finished product that we are awaiting. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mare.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister, for your responses. Just for information, this is not the first time that we have received the UN refund back during the midterm budget. However, Minister, under your watch, we have experienced an increased deterioration of the defense capabilities in all the defense force formations, including the Army, but most notably in the Air Force and the Navy. While the budget cut announced last week will have a significant impact on our overall defense readiness, will it surely have a more devastating negative impact on the Navy's already weak maritime combat capability? Explain to us why you have agreed to the 477 million rand cut specifically from maritime combat capability as part of the baseline budget reduction of 607 million rand, which will have a devastating, if not catastrophic, effect on the defense capabilities of the Navy and the Defense Force as a whole. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Mare. Mr. Mare, under my gut, there is a deterioration. But if you're honest, you know that deterioration comes from far, long before I came into this department. It comes from years and years of a depreciating defense capability. It comes from years of a non-injection into the renewal and rejuvenation of the defense. And therefore, what we have been doing is not to agree to a budget cut, but in the Western case, you do have a cabinet. You would know that you make your case, but the final decision is taken by Treasury where to cut. And therefore, it is not true that we are happy and we are complacent about this. Part of the reasons why we are running around the world and trying to get into partnerships is so that those partnerships can enable us to purchase, renew, to rebuild, whatever it is that we have. And part of the reason we are recruiting back the human capacity that Dinel used to own from the other foreign countries is that they should come home and they should help us rebuild, maintain, and upgrade our staff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mhlonishwa inkosi Cebekhulu.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Mhlonishwa, uliqiniso elingephiwe ukuthi umnyango wakho ube neyinselelo selokhu ungenile ngenhlekelele ezehlile ukucekeleka phansi kwezinto zokusebenza zombutho. Mhlonishwa, uma ungathembisa lendlu noma lesisizwe, ucabanga ukuthi kungabe kufikeleleka mashishane yini ukuze kube khona indlela yokusebenza nokugcwalisa lezi zikhalo evulekileyo ngokulimala kwemishini yokusebenza yombutho besetshenziswa amasosha alelizwe lakithi. Mhlawumbe unyaka ozayo ungathembisa ukuthi mhlawumbe kube khona osekwenzekile.
Lituna.
You, Chair. Chair, I cannot say next year, but I can say that this House will remember what the President just said at the beginning of this month regarding the state of affairs of defense and the need to inject more capital so that we can upgrade our capabilities. That is a commitment, and that is a commitment that we are following up on. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mafanya.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Thanks, Minister. Minister, the main concern is that we are far away to meet 2015 defense review targets. We all agree that the defense infrastructure was neglected with no maintenance. How are you going to be able to maintain the human resource capabilities to operate these equipments, as most capable people are resigning for greener pastures elsewhere? Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you. Mhlonishwa, most people are not resigning. Most people are taking retirement packages if you are looking at the defense, because we are also trying to contain the cost of employment. And therefore, we are enabling people to take their money and to go home so that we create more space, not only to have resources to buy and renew and maintain, but also to recruit younger people so that your rejuvenation is not just about equipment, it is also about people. What we can say is that a commitment to renew is a commitment that we are making. But we can commit to all we can until we get a resolution from Treasury and from Cabinet that the money will flow into the coffers of the defense. We are not going to do that. And that is why at the same time, yes, you are right, the Defense Review 2015 was never implemented. We are in the process of reviewing it. We are looking at what is doable, because we realize that if you look at it as it was then, there is no way we will be able to prosecute it. So we're looking at all the ways that will make it possible for us to have a defense force which is capable of defending its own country. Thank you.
Thank you. We proceed to the next question, which is question 635, asked to the Minister of Police by the Honorable Whitfield. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks, Honorable Whitfield, for the question. The investigation is complete, and in accordance with the South African Police Service Disciplinary Regulations 2016, disciplinary hearings have been scheduled in this regard. The South African Police Disciplinary Regulations 2016 provide for the suspension of employees who are alleged to have committed serious acts of misconduct. The suspended employee is subjected to a disciplinary process, including an investigation within 60 calendar days of such suspension. If the period of suspension lapses before the investigation or disciplinary process is finalized, the suspension will automatically be uplifted. In terms of the disciplinary regulations, the suspended employees must return to work, and an alternative placement is considered to prevent the employee from interfering with the investigation or disciplinary proceedings. There are, however, a number of challenges including case complexity and a lack of a dedicated disciplinary management capacity, which contribute to the investigations and/or disciplinary procedures not being completed before the suspension period ends. The National Commissioner has, in this regard, approved the establishment of a dedicated capacity in the form of disciplinary units whose sole responsibility is to deal with all disciplinary matters in SAPS in order to address this challenge that I've mentioned before. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you. The Honorable Whitfield.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. It is abundantly clear from recent events that the VIP Protection Unit is suffering from some very real problems. First, they were caught on camera violently assaulting South African citizens. And then just recently this week, they were caught with their pants around their ankles while surrendering themselves, their firearms, and their political principle to the criminals on our streets. But the problem doesn't begin and end with the VIP Protection Unit. We have a systemic problem of misconduct and a lack of discipline within the South African Police Service. Don't trust me, you can trust the facts provided by the Minister, who said that between 2013 and 2021, a total of 10,086 SAPS members were charged with serious criminal offences. These include murder, rape, and assault GBH. At the time, only 50 of more than 10,000 SAPS members charged with violent crimes were formally suspended by SAPS. Out of the 282 members charged for rape, just 11 were in fact suspended. It is abundantly clear from the evidence that the Ministry of Police is in fact not serious about cracking down on police misconduct and brutality. We see it in the evidence and we see it on the streets. So perhaps the Deputy Minister, who's standing in for the Minister of Police today, will commit to this House that the urgent review of the SAPS disciplinary regulations is not only necessary, it is immediate, and that the review of those regulations will include imposing harsher sentences on the suspension protocols for SAPS members charged with misconduct. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the follow-up question. Yes, indeed, in my response, I did indicate that there is a challenge in terms of dealing with issues of discipline because of lack of capacity. And in that regard, we have taken a decision and the National Commissioner has established a dedicated capacity to deal with this shortcoming. That is a clear indication, Chairperson, that there is commitment from the leadership of the South African Police Service to deal with wrongdoing perpetuated by the South African Police. And the issue of the review of the regulations, yes, is on the agenda. We're working on that, led by the Civilian Secretariat, and we're interacting with the Committee on Police in this regard, and we'll be updating them in the coming days about the progress that we have made. We are committed and we are doing what is necessary to deal with wrongdoing within the police space. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Ma'am Komba.
Thank you, House Chair. The appreciation is that the matter is before the courts and that we should allow the law to take its course. Honorable Deputy Minister, as a way of mitigating incidents like this from happening in the future, how will the department ensure that there is a continuous training and retraining on the conduct of police officers in the execution of their mandate? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Deputy Minister.
We have a responsibility to train officers who conduct themselves in a professional manner. And we are doing all that is necessary to ensure that that happens. And if you look in terms of the totality of the number of police officers we have and the acts of wrongdoing that happens, you can see that the majority of our police officers are professional and they are conducting themselves in a manner that is appropriate. However, we do have elements who do things that are not appropriate, and as a consequence, they create an impression that police generally are behaving in a manner that is not appropriate. But the true reflection is that a greater percentage of our police officers are appropriately trained and they are conducting themselves in an appropriate manner. Of course, we do note that we do have elements that conduct themselves in a manner that is not appropriate. Hence, we are continuing with an intensified program of policing that will ensure that the training that we give to our officers lead to a scenario where we don't have incidences of this kind in future. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. The Honorable Majosi.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Deputy Minister, South African public has low and declining trust in confidence and confident in its police. This was indicated in 2022 by the South African Human Science Research Council that reported just 27% of citizens has some trust in the police. Arguably, the incident involving the VIP protection officers assigned to the Deputy President protection has further diminished the public trust in the police. Considering this, what has your department done to regain public trust and confidence in the police since the incident has occurred? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable GM.
Thank you very much, Honorable Majosi, for the follow-up question. We have, as the leadership of the South African Police, continue to engage in public interface with our communities with a view of making them understand that it is not an issue of police officers in general that are engaging in wrongdoing. There are elements within SAPS who are doing that. And our communities have responded positively to this engagement that we have had with the minister. Both the minister and deputy minister engages in community engagement almost each and every month to ensure that our people understand that they should collaborate with the police officers, but that police officers as well must understand that we are a service. We do have elements who believe that South African police is not a service, and as a result, they conduct themselves in a manner that is not in keeping with what is expected from a service. And we have seen a response from our police officers who respond positively to this, and they do serve our people with a view that they are the servants of our people, but we do have elements who conduct themselves in a manner that is not appropriate, and such elements, we are dealing with them, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next follow-up is Honorable Gerike. Pardon me if I'm not saying it correct. Gerike or Jerike from the EFF. You are on the virtual platform, I'm told, Honorable Gerike. Okay, anyone from in the house from the EFF? Or on the platform? I hope I'm not misleading the member because I'm spelling the surname wrong. Is correct? Okay. Honorable Gerike, are you there to respond? If not, any whip from the EFF to take the question, or we pass?
Pass, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
I'll quickly take the question, Honorable House Chair.
Oh, Raymond Twedi, Swelapil.
All right. Minister, the VIP protection unit has a long history of abuse. Back in 2010, they assaulted the then student activist Shumani Maklele here in Cape Town. And over the years, the recklessness of these people has caused many accidents across the country. And they do this with impunity, and they do this mainly because they work under intense pressure applied by their political principles. Have you undertaken any investigation as the involvement of the Deputy President when this incident took place? When are you doing an overhaul of the operational structure of this unit to ensure that it is operational? Thank you, House Chair.
Before you respond, Honorable Deputy Minister, be aware that the rules protect you from answering questions that, supplementary questions that are not directly linked to the original question. You may proceed.
I appreciate the response of the chair, and accordingly, the question falls out of the questions that have been asked. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. As we proceed now, we proceed to question 607, asked by the Reverend Mishwe to the Minister of Police. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Honorable Mishwa, for the question. Yes, an increase in police visibility on the ground will contribute positively to a reduction in the crime rate. The objective of the South African Police Service is to prevent, combat, and investigate crime, maintain public order, protect and secure the inhabitants of South Africa and their property, and uphold and enforce the law. However, this cannot be done in isolation of key stakeholders in the fight against crime, particularly at ground level, where an active citizenry supported by effective community policing forums and constructive contributions from all sectors of society will further contribute to the reduction in levels of crime. The prevention of crime is not solely the responsibility of SAPS and government. Cabinet adopted an integrated crime and violent crime prevention strategy in March 2022, which represents a whole of government and whole of society approach to addressing crime and violence. Increased police visibility is a key component of the increased crime prevention and combating action plan developed under the leadership of the Minister of Police. The plan was included in the SAPS National Policing Strategy Annual Operation Plan and forms the basis for the weekly high-density Operation Shanyela, which involves the informed deployment of police officers in collaboration with other law enforcement agencies and government departments. Police visibility is part of the SAPS proactive policing or crime prevention focus and is intended to deter criminals, to ensure that the police are accessible and responsible to community needs, and to build confidence in SAPS and improve feelings of safety in communities. As such, it is also an important aspect in mobilizing communities to work with and support SAPS in its work. The Detective Service Recovery Plan was compiled during the first quarter of 2023-24 financial year and is currently subject to consultation with the relevant internal and external stakeholders. The Division Detective and Forensic Services has also commenced with the re-enlistment of experienced detectives and bringing back members that have migrated to other environments within the organization in an attempt to further strengthen the detective capacity. Furthermore, there is a continued emphasis on the training of detectives and improve the quality of investigations, thereby promoting successful convictions. The plan also focuses on tracking and arrest of wanted suspects as part of Operation Shanyela, particularly those who have been identified as having been involved in violent crimes. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. The Honorable Muruti Mishran.
Qualified and experienced detectives are a crucial part of an effective justice system. They identify suspects, find evidence to build watertight cases. Without their work, convictions are simply not possible. We also know that the majority of suspects who are arrested are never convicted.
Pauline Chow. What's the surname? Mare, Honorable Mare, please. Mute. Proceed, Honorable.
I hope you stopped your clock.
We did.
Thank you. We also know that the majority of suspects who are arrested are never convicted because of poor investigations that often lead to lack of insufficient evidence. While I heard what you said, Deputy Minister, about experienced and retired detectives, I want to know whether those that are retired because of age, do you include them because they are needed? Because without them, the number of detectives is going to remain low, and they are needed to improve the capacity in order to ensure that serious crimes such as rape and murder and the increasing cases of women and child trafficking are dealt with sufficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. You had 2 minutes. You only used 1 minute. Honorable Deputy Minister.
No, thanks, Chairperson, and thanks, Honorable Misha, for the follow-up question. Yes, indeed, we include those that have retired, but who have got the capacity, and we believe they can add value to our detective space. Our detectives, like police, the police force in general, we have had a decline over the years, and we have taken a decision that we must recapacitate the service. Hence, the decision by President that we were allowed to increase from training 5,000, which we did in 2019. It's just that COVID came and we could not commence with training the following year. Currently, as we speak, for the first time in the history of SAPS, in the last financial year, we trained 10,000 more police officers. And currently, as we speak, on the 15th of December, we will be graduating another 10,000 police officers, because the President has been leading from the front to ensure that we recapacitate the South African Police Service, because the numbers that we have today is less than the numbers that we had in 2010, 2011. And we believe we are on the right track, but the capacitation also means that we must look at ensuring that our detectives are added, because the number of cases that each detective have is more than they can manage. Hence, we are increasing in that space, and that's the reason why we are re-enlisting those who have left the police space, because we believe with that approach, we'll be able to capacitate this area of specialization, and this will help us to deal with cases that are more than what each police or detective is having in terms of their files. This will assist us a great deal, and we believe we'll be able to respond appropriately to the concerns that Honorable Mishra has raised. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Mhlomphehi Molekwa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Deputy Minister. The Minister of Finance has indicated in the medium-term budget policy statement that there will be additional allocation to the program, such as the visible policing, detective services, and crime intelligence. So how will this allocation be contribute towards the capacitation of the police service?
The Honorable Jim.
Thanks very much, Honorable Mlekwa. Thanks, Chair. We really appreciate the posture that the President and the Minister of Finance have taken in this regard. That whilst we appreciate and are aware of the financial constraints faced by our country and the need to do adjustment in our finances, the leadership saw it appropriate that we should not go into the easy spaces where we have gone in the past, which have put us where we are. That the South African Police Service will receive this support from the Treasury, which will enable us to continue with the program of ensuring that the 10,000 program continues. It is not affected by the cuts. Indeed, it will go a long way if, Chairperson, we are able in the coming years to ensure that whatever challenge we're faced with as a country, we should never go into the space, particularly of the South African police, to cut in that space. We must continue to strengthen the South African Police Service, because a strengthened South African Police Service will assist us to deal with the challenges that we are confronted with, to have a stable country, to have an environment that is conducive for economic growth and for investment. Strengthening the South African Police Service is strengthening our investment capability as a country. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. The Honorable Golding. Golding.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, with regards to those numbers of detectives, you're currently indicating that there are 8,000. There is an indication that the detective services plan, the recovery plan, is due. It is overdue. When can we expect that, and when will it be approved? Thank you.
The Honorable DGM.
Indeed, the 8,000 number you have spoken to, we are dealing with ensuring that we capacitate this so that we enable our detective officers to carry files that are able to process. Currently, as we speak, the numbers do not allow them to carry files that they are able to process. Hence, it takes a long period to resolve this. That is the reason why we have taken a decision to go and do re-enlistment of those who have left the service to ensure that we add the numbers. Because if we continue with these numbers that we have, we will not be able to respond appropriately. And we believe the approach we have taken will assist us to respond to this challenge. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you. Agbare Groenewald.
Dankie, agbare voorsitter. Honorable Deputy Minister, this question was raised by myself for more than 10 years in the Portfolio Committee on Police, in debates in Parliament, saying that the number of detectives is inadequate. In short, if you look at statistics, only 20% of criminal cases ends up in courts. And then there is not 100% prosecution rate. That means that a criminal has 80% to get away with crime in South Africa due to the lack of proper investigation. My follow-up is, we always hear that all ministers say there must be a capacitation of the detective services. Can the minister please say today, now what steps is the minister going to take to ensure the capacitation of the detectives in the South African Police Services? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Groenewald. Thanks, Chairperson. I'm happy that Honorable Groenewald have not tired by raising this for the past 10 years. It's good, and I think it's because of this robustness, not only from him, but from all members of the committee, because he does serve in that committee. As I said, as standing here responding to the question around the issues of detectives, there is a process that is unfolding to re-enlist. We are not thinking of doing it, we are doing it, Chairperson, to ensure that we capacitate our detectives, because we have come to that realization that the number of dockets that our detectives are having at hand are more than what they are supposed to do because of the number that is limited. And this is not only on the detectives, Chairperson. I've said earlier on that in 2010, 2011, 12, we had a higher number of police officers in the Republic of South Africa, policing 52 million people. Today, we are 62 million. The number of police officers that we have today is less than what we had then, policing 52,000. Hence, the response that is led by the president to capacitate the service. We have, for the first time in the history of this country, trained 10,000 new police officers in the past financial year. We were intending to train 5,000, but as we interacted with the president and the Minister of Finance, a decision was taken that we must increase by another 5,000 to make it 10,000. And a commitment was made that for the next 3 years, we are going to recruit 10,000 each year. This year we have started, as I'm speaking to you now here, on the 15th of December, there will be a pass-out parade of the current project 10,000 that we are training. And out of that 10,000, there is 2,880 new members who are going to go into the detective space. That is part of us capacitating the detective space. That is part of capacitating the police in general. And in the next financial year, we are going to recruit another 10,000 so that we increase the capacity within SAPS general. We have approached issues that affected the security cluster, not only SAPS, your defense, the Justice Department. Currently, as we speak, we are saying we are engaged in Operation Shanyela. This program, since launched in May to date, we have arrested over 200,000 wanted criminals that must go through the justice system. We are overloading a system that we are not assisting from the police to capacitate. Hence the need to resource the justice, the JCPS cluster as a whole so that it can become effective. As a country, we committed a mistake by allowing the weakening of this sector, which currently the president is leading to ensure that it is capacitated, and we must appreciate the leadership of President Ramaphosa in this regard because it is through his leadership.
Okay, thank you.
Intervention. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. We proceed to the next question, which is question 616, asked to the Minister of Home Affairs by the Honorable Chabani. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. Indeed, Honorable Chabani, the opening of Home Affairs offices at Mainland Mall in Tshwane and in Epping here in Cape Town have drastically brought improvement in servicing the masses of our clients within the Tshwane Metro and the Cape Metro CBD and surrounding areas. Having these offices has positively impacted upon customer service as it has relieved pressure. In the case of Tshwane, the pressure has been relieved at Centennial Mall and Pretoria Central offices. In the Cape of Cape Town, the pressure has been relieved at Barrack Street and Belleville. The second part of the question, Chair, the modernization of Home Affairs offices. Indeed, we are having a problem in this regard because when we say modernization, we mean offices that have got connectivity, that can give you a smart ID card, and where you can also apply for a passport. Unfortunately, half of Home Affairs offices don't meet that standard because they are still what we call legacy offices. Now, the modernization program doesn't depend on Home Affairs. It depends on connectivity. And as you know, connectivity, broadband internet, as you know, it is common cause that non-connectivity in the country is largely in the rural areas. So that is where, unfortunately, you'll find the legacy offices. Now, the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies has already announced through the cabinet a program called South Africa Connect, where all the schools, clinics, hospitals, police stations, and Home Affairs offices will be connected. When that happens, then we'll no longer have a problem of legacy offices, especially in rural areas. But be that as it may, we did not fold our hands in Home Affairs and just wait for South Africa Connect. We looked for other technologies, and we've got a new technology which works through a self-serving kiosk, which will be put in the non-modernized office, especially in far rural areas. This kiosk will work more or less like the way the ATM works, meaning you no longer need a Home Affairs official. When you apply for an ID, you go to the kiosk and apply yourself. And it gives you that smart card. But we must also warn that because we don't want fraud, it can't be given to people who are applying for the first time. It will only for those who want reissue, because they already exist in the National Population Register. We already know them. That means those who have lost their IDs or those who want to change from the smart green barcoded card, barcoded ID booklet to the smart card. We are already, we have already started piloting this kiosk, and we are hoping to deploy them as soon as the pilot is completed, so that we no longer have to depend on connectivity. When connectivity eventually comes to rural areas, it will just be a bonus for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chapsek, Chaban.
Thank you, House Chair. Thanks the Minister for the comprehensive response. Minister, while we acknowledge significant progress on the modernization of Home Affairs, as we've indicated, network remains a challenge, and the booking system contribute negatively in serving South Africans. Can the Minister assure this House on the plans to resolve the challenges that have been identified by South Africans or experienced by South Africans daily, including the mobile trucks and modernization of offices in our rural areas? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister.
Yeah, Honorable Member, the issues of IT and connectivity are being improved almost every day. On the issue of the booking system, the problem is not connectivity. The bus booking system, I'm sure that's what you're referring to. The problem is not connectivity. The problem is that before we book you, we can't just book anybody. Before we book you, we must ascertain that you indeed are a South African who appears on the National Population Register. So the person who must book you, the system, because it's a system, must check in the National Population Register. Unfortunately, it is the same system that is used by the banks when they serve you as a client, the same system that is used by SASSA when they register anybody for services, the same system that is used by private industry regulatory authority. So quite often when you book in, you find that you are queuing with the banks, you are queuing with SASSA, so it takes a long time, and sometimes the system is unable to serve you for that reason. So that's why it was sort of delaying. But we are asking, as technology is all the time, improved all the time, so that the booking system can go very smooth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Kanyile.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, concerning the modernized services offered at the Main Lane and Epping Home Affairs offices, which of these services are online and working? If they are not working or online, what are the details thereof? Since the opening of Epping and Main Lane office, what was the total amount of office hours lost due to system downtime per office? How has this affected the modernized systems of the Main Lane and Epping offices?
The Honorable, the Minister.
Yeah, Chairperson, the Epping office was actually opened as a refugee reception center because the refugee reception center here was closed down through an order of court, but the same court ordered that a new one be opened. And indeed, it's a state of the art, quite modernized. But we then took a decision that now that is a state-of-the-art building there, and it has got ample space, let's also open a Home Affairs office to relieve the pressure at Barak. That's what we did. And as I'm saying, all of them, as far as I know, are working very well. You yourself, honorable member, I hope you are part of the portfolio committee that visited Main Lane. And after that visit, the report I got from yourselves was that things are working very well. And the report we get from the public also is that the report is working, the Main Lane is working very well as Epping. Epping had some teething problems which are being resolved. So because these are working very well, that's why we wanted to move to other malls. And we are busy with them. Festa Mall in Johannesburg, Southgate Mall, Tiger Valley here in Cape Town, and Pavilion in eThekwini, because we have seen the systems in malls can work very well and is highly modernized. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will come from the Honorable van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. Good afternoon to you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, you recently informed us that your department only operates with about 40% capacity, and the reality is that your department doesn't have money for staff, doesn't have money for the Border Management Authority, doesn't have money for immigration officers. And with budget cuts on the cards, one could argue that your department is under-resourced, understaffed, overstretched, and being set up for failure by this ANC-led government. So considering this, services at banks mean less pressure on Home Affairs officers. Currently, only a handful of banks offer DHA services. For example, as of 2022, there are 559 ABSA branches, yet only 6 branches offer DHA services. These banks could help thousands of South Africans who want to access passports and IDs. Why have you not made good on your pledge to expand services to banks?
Thank you. The Honorable Minister.
Yes, Honorable Member would like to. That's why we have got a memorandum of understanding with the banks. It is, and we believe it's going to be a very good program, because anybody who has got a bank account need not go to a Home Affairs office. You just apply online through your bank, and the bank calls you to come and take biometrics. That's why we are looking forward to this. It is the banks that are delaying, not us. They keep on postponing. They did not tell us the real answer, but we know it. We know it. It's because, yes, the banks care a lot about their reputation. We are still having problems, as you know, with connectivity through CETA. And the banks use the same system, and they are worried. As I'm confessing, they never told us, we just pick it up when you meet them, that they don't want a situation where you are queuing in a bank and the CETA system is down and it looks like it's the bank that is down. They don't like that. But the moment we resolve that issue, because we are working around the clock to reverse it, I can tell you the banks will come running, because they themselves told us that if everybody who has got a bank account can have a smart ID card, no longer the old one, the bank said between themselves, they will save close to 50 million rand in identity fraud. So they really want this system. It's them who want it, and we also want it, but we are let down by the system downtime, and the banks don't want to take that risk. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mulder, FJ.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. While recognizing the efforts of the department to improve on the efficiency of services to eradicate long queues in the offices of Home Affairs, and considering the huge backlogs, vacancy rates, and budgetary constraints, how will the department ensure that sustainability, and I want to stress the sustainability of any renewal plans, and more specific, the ability of the department to roll out these action plans countrywide? Or is this only a desperate measure? Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Honorable Minister, thank you.
Yeah, it's not a disparate measure. honorable members, and Honorable Lizel van der Merwe is correct. We have said this publicly about the shortage of staff in Home Affairs. Even the Minister of Finance, the present minister, has accepted that. That's why he gave us an amount of 266 million rand to increase staffing. But unfortunately, that 266 million only amount to 700 people who we have hired now, but we need much more than that. But be that as it may, we are still meeting our targets. We are able to still offer or give 800,000 children birth certificate within the first 30 days of life. We are still able to do that, and we have reported it as part of our APP. It does not necessarily mean that the other children are not getting their IDs. We are just saying 800,000 are able to get them within the first 30 days of life. You are aware that we are able to offer any South African a passport between 5 days and 13 days, actually. Anybody who has applied for a passport recently will attest to that. If it comes to a push, we can even give you a passport within 24 hours, but we don't want to make noise about that, so I didn't say it. Because quite a number of people, yes, don't apply for their passports on time and the phone and say they want images. We are still able to do that. And regardless of these problems, we are still able to issue. Before COVID, we're issuing 3 million smart cards per annum. It has gone a little bit down because of COVID, but we are now catching up again. So we do have these problems, but we're still trying our best. And this weekend, because prepare for voter registration, we are opening Home Affairs office on we're giving people overtime payment in order for them to come and collect their IDs. And on the weekend of the registration, all Home Affairs offices will still be open regardless of the shortage, so that anybody who wants an ID or a replacement can get them to register. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We proceed to question 608, asked to the Minister in the Presidency by the Honorable Sheikh Imam. The Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The State Security Agency, informed by its mandate, is monitoring developments in the conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. The specific problem of South Africans joining the ranks of the Israeli Defense Force is receiving attention. However, this problem goes beyond Israel. It encompasses other conflicts where states and non-state players are involved in training and armed conflict. Where sufficient evidence is available that breaches of the relevant law have occurred, affected people have to be prosecuted. There is an obvious need for a multi-layered awareness campaign by all stakeholders. It is also a global challenge that requires discussion at the multilateral level. Such processes will, amongst others, involve regulating private security and intelligence organizations, regulating access to arms, regulating the outsourcing of war or privatization of war, and regulating how citizens join the defense forces of other countries. One has to emphasize the fact that SSA will continue to respond within the parameters of its mandate. For this question to be adequately answered, it should also be forwarded to other stakeholders such as the defense, which will also respond in terms of the Foreign Military Assistance Act and the National Prosecuting Authority, who are responsible for prosecuting in terms of the act. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Minister. Yes, it has been addressed to the other relevant departments as well. And the fact that you say this matter is receiving attention, how soon can we have a response given the fact that South Africans serving in the Israeli Defense Force are publicly bragging about serving in this army and as a result of that, committing atrocities against innocent Palestinian civilians, women, and children.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. As indicated, that portion of the question will have to be forwarded to the Minister of Defense in terms of Foreign Military Assistance Act, because that's where they will then be able to determine how long, and the National Prosecuting Authority, who are the prosecutors. Our responsibility would be to provide the details of those who are participating in that war, who are South Africans. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Make.
Thank you, Chairperson. We are all aware that we have private military companies across the world that are involved in the conflict areas all over the world, of which South African citizens participate in, like the case of South Africans who were arrested in Iraq at some stage. How will the state ensure that there are tighter regulatory mechanisms to stop South Africans from participating in such private military companies? Because it will mean that South Africa is producing and exporting dogs of war or missionaries that go around maiming women and children and committing genocide. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The question of the participation of South African citizens in paramilitary companies, as indicated earlier, will need multi-party collaboration. On our part, our responsibility is that when South Africans participate, we find the details and pass them on to the relevant authorities, because in South Africa, it's illegal for South Africans to participate in military operations outside of the Republic, where they are not sanctioned by the Republic or by the government. In the question specific to Honorable Make, the response is that the National Prosecuting Authority will have to move with speed to prosecute those who are participating, not only in the Israeli war, but in any other part of the world, and also the Defense Department to attend to those who participate, who are former soldiers, in terms of their benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Kochler.
Thank you. While this question should, of course, be addressed to the Minister of Defense and is already dealt with through legislation by the Mercenaries Act and others, in that we're one of just 2 countries, ourselves and the United States, with such legislation, which sets out the legal framework governing the involvement of their citizens in armed conflict abroad. The question remains that as there are in...
Yeah, I was waiting for the name, Ms. Kokla, don't worry. Honorable Luzipo, please mute. Proceed, ma'am.
The question remains that as there are indeed reports that former SANDF members are out there plying their trade in private security companies in Iraq, Afghanistan, elsewhere in Eastern Europe, and of course, and perhaps the danger to this country, as it's well known, there were South Africans who left the country and joined ISIS and have since personally returned, or their widows and children have returned to this country. Minister, do you know how many South Africans are working in these so-called security firms around the world as mercenaries? How many have returned to this country, and how many ISIS followers and funders now reside here? Thank you.
Thank you. Proceed, Honorable Minister. You may respond to one follow-up question.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. As the Honorable Kola Barnard indicated, the question must be referred to the Minister of Defense. Unfortunately, it's being directed as a follow-up question to me. In terms of the ones who are returning from ISIS, we are working to trace them in line with the court order that we were given, to make sure that when they're integrated into communities, and we'll do what is necessary on our part to make sure that they do not rejoin the cells that they were party to. in terms of the number. Unfortunately, Honorable Kola Barnard will furnish it to the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Thring, the opportunity is yours.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, the involvement of South Africans in conflicts or wars around the globe is well known. It is said, for example, that there are South Africans fighting on both sides of the Russian-Ukraine war. It is also alleged that there are cells of jihadist groups like ISIS and Boko Haram operating in South Africa, and that there are South Africans fighting alongside ISIS in other countries, possibly even including Hamas. Now, Minister, which is the greater risk to South Africa? South Africans fighting the IDF or South Africans fighting alongside jihadist groups and or Hamas, whose intent is to kill Jews wherever they may be found? And how is your department planning to deal with these perceived threats? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. All of the above are dangerous to the interest of the Republic because it's illegal in terms of South African laws to participate in any war sponsored by private companies or fight alongside the flag of other countries. So all of them are dangerous and we treat them as equally as that. How we are doing it, that's the reason we are able to monitor the participation and pass the necessary information to the relevant law enforcement agencies so that they can do their part. That includes the defense. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is asked to the Minister of Police by the Honorable Siabi. Question 619. You may respond, Honorable GM.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Siabi. The President of the Republic of South Africa established an interministerial committee in response to the escalation of politically linked incidences in KwaZulu-Natal in 2018. The IMC is composed of the Ministries of State Security, Defense, Police, and Justice and Correctional Services. The committee, which is led by the police minister, is in charge of seeing to it that those responsible for crimes connected to politics are prosecuted. The IMC promotes unity, social cohesion, and nation building in rural communities. This task team that has been established to investigate political killings are also tasked, Chairperson, to deal with investigation of all matters of traditional leaders in the country. The IMC established a multidisciplinary task team in July 2018 to develop and implement the strategy for investigating and prosecuting politically related cases, as I said, including those of traditional leaders. This team comprised the State Security Agency, the Department of Justice and Correctional Services, the National Prosecution Authority, and the South African Police Services. A total number of 325 dockets based on the approved criteria for politically related crime incidents was assigned to the National Task Team. These cases span the years 2011 to the present and include attacks on sitting council members as well as attacks on former and candidate council members and office bearers for other political parties and municipal officials who end up as victims or as deceased. And this, as I said earlier on, include traditional leaders. The category of cases include murder, attempted murder, intimidation, conspiracy to commit murder, extortion with intent to do grievous bodily harm, other cases related to political incidences. A total of 355 individuals have been arrested and charged thus far, and 65 of those apprehended have been found guilty. The National Task Team is expanding its investigation into political related cases, including murders of council members to other provinces where similar incidents are prevalent. The task team implements the traditional policing concept with the focus to address crimes affecting rural communities, creates awareness and educate rural communities about violent crimes, including gender-based violence and femicide, among others, and to bring police services closer to rural areas. The engagement with communities through CPFs is also key in the addressing of violent crimes in these communities. SAPS has a good working relationship with communities in most policing areas. All police stations have active CPF structures, with the exception of 3 stations which have been exempted from establishing CPFs due to the transitionary nature of the communities which they serve. These police stations are Boots Up, Mukopong, and Kudus Drift. CPF structures are also in place at district, provincial, and national levels. Where challenges arise, CPF structures work with SAPS management to reduce conflict. These relationships are not static, but provide mechanisms to work together or address challenges as they arise. SAPS, in consultation with the Civilian Secretariat, has prioritized the enhancing of the function of community police forums so as to improve liaison between SAPS and the communities they serve. The finalization of new CPF elections at all levels in compliance with the President's 2023 State of the Nation address requirement has been completed, and newly elected CPFs and board members are being capacitated through specific training intervention. And the financial support for the value of 70 million was allocated to CPF by SAPS in the 2023-24. And we want to thank this Honorable House for having supported the passing of our budget, which include for the first time amounts allocated specifically for the CPFs. The cooperation between SAPS and communities include the following categories of partnerships: business partnership, community-based partnership, international partnerships, faith-based organizations, traditional leaders, and non-governmental organization partnerships. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the opportunity to respond to this question.
And the 4 minutes was exceeded. Thank you. The Honorable Siabi.
Thank you very much, House Chair. And thanks very much, Deputy Minister, for that comprehensive response.
Vala, Mama Son.
Deputy Minister, given that the festive season is around the corner, what further measures will the Department of Police employ to ensure a safe and peaceful festive season for South Africans? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks, Honorable Siabi, for that follow-up question. I must say, Chair, earlier on, I did mention that we have launched Operation Shanyela, which is a multidisciplinary program intended at intensifying our fight against crime. This involves an approach where we use multidisciplinary forces to deal with this challenge. It is within this context of Operation Shanyela that we have launched the Safer Festive Season program in the city of Cape Town on the 13th of October 2013 under the theme Combating Crime Through Decisive Police Action and Robust Community Engagement. This campaign is a campaign that we have been running since the 13th of October, which will end on the 31st of January, to ensure that South Africans enjoy a festive season that is free from criminality. They are able to rest after a long year of work that they have conducted themselves in. This is a program that we are running throughout the years. Every time we approach the festive season, we have a festive season campaign. The difference this time around is that the festive season is launched within the context where we are intensifying our policing effort through Operation Chanyela. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Mhlomphehi Terblanche, dis is 'n geleentheid.
Thank you, Chairperson. And thank you also to the Deputy Minister. Deputy Minister, your response, we are very glad that this committee has been established, but your response, with all due respect, you know, I found it to be, you are all over the place and not really very successful anywhere. Now, my question is, will you consider, Deputy Minister, to revisit your plan, your strategy? Because at the moment, it appears that in terms of detection, prosecution, and conviction, you are not really making the grade. Your response, please.
The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honorable. I tried to listen attentively to the question, but I was unable to pick up the all over the place that you are referring to. And I felt probably I must allow you to speak up to the end. And I realized that all over was never specified, which clearly means that you were not fully ready to ask this specific question. But I must say that Operation Chanyela is responding appropriately. I've said here that since launch to date, we have arrested over 200,000 people who were wanted. And as we speak, they are going through the justice system, through our court processes. And I'm quite confident that this is yielding results, because if we had arrested people without proper facts, most of them will be outside as we speak. But people arrested under Operation Chanyela are inside. And this operation is not all over. It's not all over. There are programs, there are areas where, for instance, we focus on wanted criminals. These 200,000 were specifically looked for throughout the length and breadth of the country. And we found them wherever they were hiding. And as we speak, they are in detention, are waiting to face the consequences of their own action. So it's not everywhere. And the roadblocks that we conduct are not roadblocks that are everywhere. There are roadblocks that are in specific areas that are problematic, including the searches that we conduct. They are intelligence-driven and they are yielding results.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Time is
Chairperson.
up. The Honorable Majosi.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Honorable Deputy Minister, in KwaZulu-Natal, Inkosi Khumalo was violently attacked around first week of October. And South African Police Service said they will do something, which was last year. 2 weeks ago, he was killed with his wife, leaving a 5-year-old child. Your interministerial committee and all these processes that you are mentioning now are just a lip service. Nothing is being done on the ground. What can you promise or commit to that the killings of Izinduna, Amakosi, and councillors in these areas, especially in KwaZulu-Natal and other provinces where Izinduna and Amakosi are, will be of your government priority? Thanks, Chief.
The Honorable GM.
Thanks very much, Honorable Jose.
Proceed, GM.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you,
Order,
Chairperson.
members, order. Uyabona wenzeni ke mamkhawula manje. Sengikhathele ukukhalimana nawe. Proceed, Honorable GM.
It's only Honorable Kaula who can do that, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Majos, for that question. I must say that it's said that Unkosi Kumalo passed on in the manner in which he did, and our condolences to his family and the royal house of the Kumalos, because he passed on together with his wife. I will not go into the specific case in terms of where the investigations are, because it's a subject that is being investigated by police. We are committed to ensure that our traditional leaders, our councillors, and politicians, and even South Africans are safe. But we will need society to be helpful in this regard, including those affected families and political organizations that these members belong to. And I think if they can conduct themselves in a manner that is appropriate, we wouldn't be here. From the police, we will do everything possible to deal with this act of criminality. And in this specific case, despite the ministerial task committee and the task team established, the National Commissioner has interfaced with the provincial commissioner that a special team be put together to work on this specific case of Unkosi Ukuma. We, however, as the South African police, have a program on police, traditional policing, which was launched in Nongoma under Isloan, and may his soul continue to rest in peace. We believe traditional isilo.
Hayi kahlawule lona. Sepizisilo setezilwane.
Isilo. Yeah, isilo samabandla.
Dawudi Komo.
It's that program is intended to bring policing closer to traditional leaders, and it requires traditional leaders to play an active role in this regard. And if this program can be strengthened throughout the length and breadth of our country, incidences of this nature will not happen, because traditional communities, the leadership of traditional house will be able to provide what is needed to ensure that we don't have this form of activity happening. We are confident that as we unroll this program and it is implemented in all areas of traditional leaders, we will have resolved this matter, because we believe communities must be at the center. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Mam Kaula, wapinda futhi uzayibukela ku TV uzophuma lapha. Honorable Gerike, are you back?
Yes, House Chair, good afternoon. Sorry, I experienced some connecting problems here, but I am back.
No problem.
Thank you, Minister, Deputy Minister. A radio presenter in KZN called Zim Dollar called out the abuse of power and indiscriminate killings done by the National Intervention Unit. In response at the funeral of an NIU member who was gunned down, you or the minister blamed Zim Dollar for the murder of that officer, thereby exposing her to undue public scrutiny and also placing her life at risk. In retrospect, were your comments on her warranted? What impact do utterances like that have on the willingness of the public to call out unlawfulness, even if done by the police? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, the Honorable GM.
Thank you, Chair. This issue of Honorable Gerike of Zim Dollar, I can't comment on that, but it's a matter that must be investigated, and if we are given appropriate information, we follow it up, because I don't have details of that, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We proceed now to the next question, which is the question asked to the Minister of International Relations. No, I'm far. Justice and Correctional Service, question 648 by the Honorable Horn.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. On the 5th of June, 2023, myself and the Director General, accompanied by senior officials and delegations from the NPA, visited the UAE and met His Excellency Abdul Bil Sultan bin Awad Al Nuaim, the Minister of Justice in the UAE, and His Excellency Judge Abdul Raham Murad Al Bushi, the Director of International Cooperation in the UAE Central Authority, to engage the authorities in the UAE on the extradition request with regards to the Gupta brothers. This was followed by further virtual technical meeting between the prosecutors in the UAE and South Africa on the 15th of June, 2023. At this meeting, South Africa emphasized the need for the UAE to respond to a letter sent by the South African Central Authority on the 25th of April, 2023, requesting several clarifications and information from the UAE on the unsuccessful extradition request, which is important for the resubmission by the National Prosecuting Authority. Since that meeting, there have also been several not-verbals that have been dispatched to the UAE from our central authority, requesting the same responses which are central with regards to the resubmission by the National Prosecuting Authority to the request. To date, no responses have been received, nor are they forthcoming. We therefore continue to engage with the authorities with the hope that political and diplomatic intervention will exert pressure to enable the UAE Central Authority to respond to these crucial questions that have been submitted by the Central Authority. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable W. Horn.
Thanks, House Chair. Minister, it would seem much like the Minister of Police, you've also been all over the place. If we then understand it correctly, since the letter of the 25th of April, 6 months have now gone by, and to date no response, despite your personal visit. So maybe, Minister, one can say that this busyness without achieving much is threatening to be the hallmark of your tenure. But can you at least inform South Africans that when you had that personal visit, you at least established whether the Gupta brothers, who was, of course, arrested in terms of the Interpol red notice, not necessarily because of our extradition request, whether they're still in arrest there in the UAE, and are they still in the UAE? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. The response was specific to the question. It was not all over. And the engagement that we had with the authorities in the UAE were in line with the extradition treaty between the two state parties. We were able to engage with the authorities and we established issues in relation to the extradition treaty. One of the issues that we wanted to establish is in line with Article 5(1)(a) of the treaty that indicates that when there is a charge of competent jurisdiction, the authorities in the UAE are obliged to charge. With regards to the charge of money laundering, they've also not yet charged them, nor indicated whether they will charge them. We've also asked them with regards to the whereabouts of the Gupta brothers. They also stated to us that they don't know, they are not aware. but in line with an international law, the last position of site is the last site through which they are supposed to be requested from. And they were arrested on the basis of a road notice that was issued in collaboration with the authorities here in South Africa. And that is international standards with the arrest of any fugitive in any country. The extradition process follows after the arrest. And that is how it is done anywhere in the world. And the red notice remains active. And as we speak now, that is the last counter of sight, and we will continue to pursue the diplomatic channels so that the UAE responds and attends to the extradition treaty as per the agreement between the two countries. Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable A. Ramalobeng. Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks, House Chair. It's A. Ramalobeng. Thanks, Minister, for the quite comprehensive response that you have given to an Honorable Horn. Minister, what are some of the lessons that we have learned in this particular extradition as government, given that South Africa and the UAE have different legal systems, or they employ different legal systems as per ours? Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Ramalobeng. Ramulobeng. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. Extradition in any country remains a polycentric issue, which involves both diplomatic and legal processes. It is against this background that we have followed a multi-pronged strategy to engage with the UAE, both in terms of diplomatic channels and also in terms of the extradition treaty. So it is clear to us that going forward with any extradition matter in any country where the Republic of South Africa is involved, we need to adopt a multi-pronged approach, which includes politics and also diplomatic, but also follow the legal processes in terms of the extradition agreement that has been signed by both parties. And in this regard, we will continue to enforce this extradition agreement that exists between the two countries, and also the UN Convention in relations to matters of this nature. Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thank you, the Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable C.T. Simang.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, I wish to emphasize that the failure to meet the required standards for legal documentation appears to reflect a capacity shortfall within the department. In light of this, could the minister provide insights into the specific measures and strategies being implemented to bolster the department's capacity and proficiency, ensuring that it can meet the exacting standards and complexities inherent in matters of this nature? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Prof. I now recognize the Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. I can state with authority, Honorable House Chairperson, that we don't have a challenge of capacity. The Department of Justice handles extradition requests on a day-to-day basis. It's our daily bread. We are experts on the matter. We liaise with many foreign jurisdictions where we do hand over international fugitives in our country. They also do the same with us. So on a day-to-day basis, we're able to handle it. In this regard, it's a unique and a peculiar situation with the UAE related to the context. It's context specific, and it will be dealt with in that regard. I'm saying this, Honorable House Chairperson, in that in terms of Article 17 of the United Nations Conventions Against Corruption, it states and very clearly, before refusing extradition, the requested state shall, where appropriate, consult with the requested state to provide it with ample opportunity to present its opinions and to provide information related to the allegations. So there is no time where you can use technicality not to respond and comply with an extradition treaty. This is also stated in conventions of the United Nations, and we have complied. The UAE must just respond to the questions asked by the central authority. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by Honorable F.J. Mudla.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister Ramola, regardless of the ongoing interaction between the governments of South Africa and the Arab Emirates on the details and technicalities that led to the dismissal of the extradition application for the Gupta brothers, one should surely recognize that in this specific instance, justice delayed is justice denied, with inevitable and detrimental consequences. What alternative remedies will be at the disposal of the South African government should the current process of negotiation and interaction fail? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. As I've said, extraditions across the globe are issues of diplomatic, political, and also legal nature. And that is what we'll continue to pursue, including the UN conventions governing matters of this nature. And as the South African government, as I've said, we remain committed to ensure that the extradition treaty is complied with by the requested state, and we will continue to also use multilateral platforms to exert the necessary diplomatic pressure to the UAE to do what is in terms of the extradition agreement. Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Question 653 will be asked, has been asked by Honorable M.K. Mutwedi to the Honorable Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The answer to the question is that I have not tabled a proposal to the Cabinet for the expulsion of the Ambassador of Israel to South Africa. As honorable members would be aware, given the Cabinet briefing, the Cabinet has decided that we should recall our officials from Israel at this time for consultations. Should there be any further action to be taken by the government, we obviously would make the necessary statements. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Mutwedi. Over to you, Honorable Member. You may take it, Honorable Member in the House.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, when we were busy debating your ministerial statement yesterday, the genocide Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was busy telling the world that he will continue with the genocide in Gaza. We hear all the politics and explanations. We agree that what is happening and has been happening in Palestine, Gaza at the moment, the killing of the children, innocent people, is genocide. We agree that the International Crime Court must issue a warrant of arrest. We welcome the decision to recall our diplomatic representation from the Tel Aviv. We just want to know what is that must happen to completely cut all ties with Israel so that we know where you stand next week when we bring a motion for Parliament to call on government to expel the ambassador from Israel, of Israel from South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Chairperson, clearly the EFF has the role in Parliament of presenting any motion that it wishes to present. We have expressed our views with respect to the current carnage that is underway in the Palestinian territories against the people of Palestine, particularly innocent civilians. We've made our views as the government of South Africa very clearly known, and the member is aware of them. With respect as to further action, obviously the department and government are playing a role in concert with other nations to discuss how we work together to arrive at a point where there is prospects for peace in that part of the world. As to expulsion, there is no decision with respect to that at this moment. Should such a decision be made, we certainly would come into the public space and make the necessary announcement. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable B.S. Ngosi. Yes, Honorable Member, it's you. It's your turn. Honorable B.S. Ngosi, are you not B.S. Ngosi?
Yes, I am, but
It's a second
Honorable-
supplementary question.
it's Honorable Ngola. Okay.
Honorable Member, probably less so that you can clarify yourself. Let me go to Honorable M. Hlengwa.
No, thank you very much.
No, honorable members, I've given Honorable M. Hlengwa will come back to the ANC.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Minister, given the complexity, and probably that's an understatement, but for the purposes of this question, it may suffice, of the realities prevailing on the ground in the Israeli-Palestine conflict, it is obviously prudent that South Africa's presence remains on the ground. Having said that, the pointed question then is government considering withdrawing our representation from Israel? Because as you say, that a decision has not been taken, but we need to know what you are dealing with. And in light of the fact that earlier on you spoke about the support NGOs are providing, South Africa's presence, circumstances notwithstanding, is important. And so the question really is this something that government has placed on the table and thinking about? And if so, what would be the reasons for it? Thank you.
Honorable Member, I recognize the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, on the virtual platform. I think he's got a technical problem. I think the DM is prepared to take the response. Over to you, DM.
Yes, thank you very much to the IFP Honorable Slingwa. What government has done is in 2018, May 2018, recalled the South African ambassador from Tel Aviv. So that was the first step. Given the incremental action of the State of Israel, which we regard as at this moment genocidal, we then took a decision which was announced by the Minister of the Presidency to recall the entirety of our diplomatic personnel, which since 2018 was headed by a chargé for further consultation. So that is where we are. So we have recalled the entirety of our representation from 2018, including the chargé. So that is obviously the fortified action that government have taken in response to the conduct of the State of Israel against the people of Palestine. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable the DM. I now recognize Honorable S. Ngola.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Honorable Deputy Minister, South Africa has always been consistent on the preference for negotiations to resolve international disputes, and this has been the call of government for the ceasefire in the war in Gaza. Given that the Secretary General of the United Nations condemned the killing of civilians in Gaza and expressed dismay by reports that 2/3 of those who have been killed are women and children, what diplomatic efforts are being pursued by South Africa to call Israel to stop the attacks and report to peace and resort to peaceful resolution of the Israeli-Palestine question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize the Honorable DM in the House.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think, firstly, Madam Chair, the current action of the State of Israel against the occupied people of Palestine requires an authoritative moral compass of the entirety of the world. Because of our history of being subjected equally to an oppressive regime, South Africa have obviously rich experience and wisdom to occupy that center moral voice in regards to this conduct, Honorable Chair. But equally so, we have learned from our own history that to construct a peaceful world requires to have in your repository key instruments that would enhance peace diplomacy. We have demonstrated that through our own peaceful transition. We have demonstrated that when we forge unity of purpose through the Good Friday Agreement in relation to Northern Ireland and the UK. We have demonstrated that through the innovative action taken by President Ramaphosa to lead the African Peace Initiative on the Ukrainian war. And at this current moment, we are obviously engaging with a number of both state and non-state actors, Madam Chair, in relation to how we are able to support the work of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, obviously under the stewardship of the UN Security Council, and our Minister, Dr. Pando, have made that substantive case at the session of the UN Security Council 2 weeks back. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honorable DM. I now recognize for the fourth last supplementary question, Honorable S.N. Swart.
Thank you, House Chair. Arising from your response, Deputy Minister and Minister, at no stage following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which led to the deaths of tens of thousands of innocent women and children, did the South African government consider downgrading its embassy in Russia, withdrawing its diplomats, or expelling the Russian ambassador, despite an ICC warrant of arrest against President Putin for war crimes? Indeed, some 4 months into the war, the minister said, the international community must focus on finding a sustainable solution. The minister emphasized that it will not be found in isolating one party or bringing it to its knees. Yet this is precisely what the ANC government is doing to Israel, wanting to isolate it and bring it to its knees. Deputy Minister, do you not then agree that it is crucial to maintain diplomatic ties and communication, even with those countries you may differ from, particularly to find out about the information on the ground? And what, Deputy Minister, steps have been taken to release the hostages, including a South African hostage held by Hamas? I'd appreciate your response to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize the Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Obviously, Honorable Swartz, there is a UN Security Council resolution which the entirety of the UN Security Council have agreed to, with 14 members of the UN Security Council that acclaimed that the conduct of the Israeli state as it relates to the occupation of the Palestine land, that includes Gaza, includes West Bank and even East Jerusalem, was illegal, Madam Chair. That is contained obviously in the UN Security Council 2334. The only country that abstained from that vote was the United States of America. They did not oppose it. So the entirety of the 15 members of the UN Security Council have proclaimed the illegitimate conduct of the State of Israel. So that is the difference.
Secondly, House Chair, as it relates to the Ukrainian war, we take our prescripts, obviously, we draw inspiration from standing UN Security Council decision. In as early as 2015, Madam Chair, once again, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution 2202, which underpinned the Minsk Agreement as the framework for the resolution of, in particular, the conflict as it relates to Eastern Ukraine. In that United Nations Security Council, you have the members of the P5, your permanent members with the veto right. Those members, Honorable House Chair, renegated on their responsibility to implement their own decision. And that is the two difference in relation to the Ukrainian war and in relation to the war against the Palestinian people, because what we must be clear about, Madam Chair, the Palestinian people are the occupied people.
Thank
The
you,
Israeli state is the occupying force. Thank you very much.
Your time has expired. Thank you so much. Question number 622 has been asked by Honorable N.H. Maseko Jele to the Honorable Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. The Department of Correctional Services and Center for Scientific and Industrial Research have collaborated in developing 10 prototype bracelets, also known as the electronic monitoring systems. This is a research development project and was developed to improve the functionality such as system integration, location-aware, geographical fencing. This was aimed at ensuring that South Africa owns the intellectual property rights and data storage that will be of South African-based system. The department is finalizing the preparation for safety tests for use by humans, usually provided by an external body of authority in environmental impact analysis. The test will be at various geographical locations over a period of 3 months from 13 November to 31 January 2024, while concentrated in the province of Gauteng. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable M.H. Maseko Jele, Maseko Jele, Maseko Jele, Maseko Jele.
Thank you. Thank you, House Chair. And thank you to the Minister for the answer. Minister, acknowledging that EMS is still in its testing stages, non-custodial care will result in inmates being brought back to the society, particularly the very society or communities they have offended. So, Mr. Minister, what are the department plans for community engagements before offenders are released? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Maseko Jele. The Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. There is a process of VOD, which includes victim offender dialogues, engagements with communities to make them aware of the rehabilitation programs at correctional services, including the programs related to parolees. This project will also enhance that monitoring system, hence a need to engage with the community so that they are also aware of the program that GCS is developing with the CSIR, which will help with geolocation, with also detection technology in relation to the parolees. So in this process of reintegration and the process dealing with the parolees, it's important that society is involved and it's an integral part of the project. Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable J. Engelberg. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, this is not a new thing. This goes back many, many years. In fact, 10 years almost to the day, 11 November 2013, Department of Correctional Services launched EMS. A vast amount of money was spent electronic monitoring bracelets for parolees and probationers in the past. These bracelets lie unused due to the department not having upgraded the required software. What guarantee is there that this will simply not happen again?
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
It is the fact that, Honorable Chair, this is our own product. We are no longer relying on an external or original manufacturer. The department and the CSIR will now be the original manufacturers. We will own the IP, we will own everything, which means that we'll also be able to upgrade the software. So the story of the past will not happen again on the basis that this will now be handled by us and developed by us. Even if we go to the market for mass production, we will be the owners of the IP and the software, which means that the upgrading part will remain on our hands. This is part of building a capable Department of Correctional Services that is self-sufficient. Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable Sitim Simang.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, in the light of the experience of your predecessor, former Minister Spoon Ndebele, who previously launched the electronic monitoring system using ankle bracelets and highlighted its advanced features, it's crucial to understand how the department plans to assess the effectiveness and reliability of the ankle bracelets during the upcoming field tests. Can you provide insights into the specific mechanisms and criteria in place to evaluate the performance of these ankle bracelets, and how will the data be collected, be analyzed, and utilized to enhance the supervision
Thank you, Honorable
and
Member.
monitoring
Your
of
time has expired.
parolees,
Thank you very much, sir.
probationers, and prisoners awaiting trial.
Thank you. Thank you. The Honorable Minister, no, I understand his challenge. You just bear with me.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable House Chair. As I said in the original response, that the research and development project is developed to improve the functionality such as system integration, location aware, and the geographical fence. And this type of state-of-the-art capability, the department is working with a state institution charged with research on behalf of the state, the CSIR, which has the capability, which will help us to monitor whether what has been developed in collaboration with the CSIR responds to these issues of geographic location, how the data is captured, how the communication between the officials and the community is therefore stored and used for the purpose of geolocation and also of monitoring the parolees. So the CSIR, with this state-of-the-art technology and research capability, will help the department both in the improvement and also in the mass production of the product when it has been confirmed to be of human use and that it is technologically proved and ready to be deployed in the society. Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable B.J. Mkhwebane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Minister, while the monitoring of parolees and probationers is important, most of the violent crimes in this country happen because of the ability of inmates to continue keeping contact with people on the outside. Have you considered asking the CSIR to develop a system or as well that would eliminate unsupervised telephone contact between prisoners and those on the outside? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. Yes, indeed, we also have a project different and separate from this one. Same with the CSIR, which is aimed to help us with regards to the technology that will enable us to stop the use of cell phones and other telephone communication methods or internet providers or whatever method of communication by inmates unsupervised and during the lockup period. This has been unfortunately delayed by a number of regulatory challenges, which we have since discovered when the first issue like signal jams and other deployment were suggested by the CSIR. It was discovered that that will be in violation of the ICASA regulations, which provide for telecommunications in various communities, because the inmates, if you look at them, they are in a type of a setup which they are not the only people. There are other people who must access telecommunication. So that's why we are working with the CSIR to find an innovative way that will enable us to manage this situation where the inmates cannot be able to communicate with the outside world. And also the outcomes of that will soon be released in between the discussion of correctional services and the CSIR. Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, it has been brought to my attention that the question 610 in the name of Honorable Hendricks may anticipate a matter that is scheduled for the debate on Tuesday, the 14th November, 2023 in terms of Rule 90. The question of Honorable Hendricks is very broadly framed and seems to relate specifically to the intention of the department to introduce a bill in the future. I would like to caution that this question and any supplementary questions do not anticipate a matter that will be before the House next week. The question may nevertheless be proceeded with. I now recognize the Honorable Minister in terms of question 610. The Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable House Chair. We will proceed in line with your guidance for the benefit of society. The Divorce Amendment Bill introduced by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development seeks to give effect to the Constitutional Court order in Women's Legal Center Trust case. There is no intention to rewrite Sharia law as suggested by the Honorable Member. In granting the order, the Constitutional Court directed the recognition of Muslim marriages as valid marriages under civil law. This is the Court, is not the department. The Constitutional Court declared that the Divorce Act to be inconsistent with the Constitution in that it fails to recognize marriages solemnized in accordance with Sharia law, Muslim marriages which have not been registered as civil marriages. The Constitutional Court also declared Section 673 and 91 of the Divorce Act unconstitutional because it fails to safeguard the welfare of minor or dependent children born of Muslim marriages on dissolution of the Muslim marriages in the same or similar manner as minor or dependent children born of other marriages that are dissolved. It also does not provide for the redistribution of assets on the dissolution of Muslim marriages, when such redistribution will be just. Further provision for the forfeiture of the patrimonial benefits of Muslim marriage at the same time of its dissolution is not catered for in the same or similar way as it does in respect of other marriages that are dissolved. The Women's Legal Center case extends the protection of the Divorce Act to parties to a Muslim marriage, particularly recognizing the plight of vulnerable women married according to Islamic law and children of Muslim marriages. Failing to extend the benefits and protection of the Divorce Act to Muslim marriages infringes the rights of women and children born of Muslim marriages. Far from rewriting Sharia law, the bill recognized the default matrimonial property regime of Muslim marriages as being out of community of property. The bill provides for the amendment of Section 7 of the Divorce Act, that when a court granting a decree of divorce in respect of marriages out of community of property, it must redistribute assets of that marriage on the application in the absence of any agreement. The bill is in line with the Constitutional Court judgment, which also stated the constitutionality of Sharia marital law is not under consideration. It was concerned about the hardships faced by women in Muslim marriages as the consequences of being excluded from the benefits derived from the Marriage Act and the Divorce Act. The bill does not aim to rewrite religious law or to make it inferior to civil law. Muslim couples may still abide by the tenets of Sharia law. Parties to Muslim marriages may still continue to dissolve their marriages and regulate the consequences thereof in accordance with their faith. The bill provides a means for parties to Muslim marriages to dissolve their marriage in terms of civil law, which is a remedy that has been denied to women and children in Muslim marriages. And this is in compliance with the Constitutional Court order. We are therefore not rewriting the marriage regime. That is for Tatemtswaledi. Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable M.G.E. Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honorable the People's Minister, and thanks for your generosity in providing a response. People's Minister, our Constitution provides for reasonable accommodation with regard to personal law. The
Order,
Concord,
honorable members from both sides.
the Concord made an order that a Sharia marriage and it follows its consequences like divorce or valid South African marriages. Minister, it is not the democratic and the right thing to engage, not to engage with Muslim ulama bodies like UXA, MJC, and Shura as you proceed, in our view, to change Islamic Sharia divorce law. Not a single Muslim ulama body support the unilateral approach you have that the Constitution trumps people's faith. And this act will harm the faith of Muslim women. And we feel that you have given us some comforting words. There is going to be a debate, but we just want to ask how you feel about the constitutional provision that there must be reasonable accommodation and that the Constitution doesn't always necessarily have to trump, in this case, Islamic Sharia marriage law with regard to divorce.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Indeed, the bill has reasonably accommodated the Sharia law, because when you look at it, it is not dealing with how Sharia law in terms of their faith, they regulate their marriages. It's only dealing with the issue of what happens when there is a divorce. And that is what we are regulating now, that when there is a divorce, when you divorce in a marriage that has been agreed upon in terms of Sharia law, it must be done the same way a civil marriage is done. That is what the court is saying. The Constitutional Court is what has directed us. And the Constitutional Court is directing us to do this bill to protect the vulnerable people, the children and the women who become affected in terms of benefits of the assets when there is a divorce in a marriage that has been constituted in terms of Sharia law. That is all that the bill is doing and nothing more. The rest of regulating the Sharia marriages and so forth, I believe that the Honorable Mutwaledi, the Minister of Home Affairs, is busy with a bill that will deal with all those aspects. Our aspect ends when the marriage is divorced. So Tatemtswaledi is the happy one who makes them happy. Ourselves, unfortunately, we have the unfortunate duty of coming when things are bad. Where is the divorce? And we have to manage and help the vulnerable people. And that is what we are doing with the bill. Thank you, House Chair.
Honorable Member. The second order, honorable members. Order. Order, Chief Whip of the Majority Party. Honorable members, allow me to recognize Honorable W.S. New Ward Drachen. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you, Honorable Minister. Public participation processes with regard to the divorce amendment bill is now underway in the National Assembly. Given the importance of this legislation, which also seeks to protect the interests of women, how much public awareness has the department raised, particularly amongst the members of the Muslim community who are affected by this legislation? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. The department usually engages with relevant stakeholders before it introduces a bill. In this regard, we continue to engage with society. Even Honorable Hendricks, who asked the question, we are open also to engage with him so that we clarify that we are complying with what the Constitutional Court order has said. And also the committee itself is engaged in public participation where the relevant stakeholders can further strengthen and enhance the bill so that it is in compliance with what the Constitutional Court expects us to do in terms of protecting the vulnerable women and children in a situation of a divorce of a Sharia marriage. Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I now recognize Honourable Baden-Bach. Over to you.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Honourable Minister, you truly are the People's Minister. The Constitutional Court held that the Marriage Act and the Divorce Act discriminate unfairly and unjustly against women in Muslim marriages, as it does not afford them the same rights afforded to women in non-Muslim marriages. The right to equality was therefore the deciding factor. Unfortunately, this right is not properly given effect to in the application of Sharia law by some branches of the Muslim faith. How will this government ensure that the application of the amended Marriage Act and Divorce Act does not allow the continued discrimination against Muslim women?
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Indeed, we are complying with the Constitutional Court order that has provided for us to ensure that the bill that we provide must give protection to the vulnerable groups, women and children. And we believe that is what the bill is aimed to do in a situation of a divorce of a Sharia marriage that is governed by Sharia law. And that is what we are doing. And as I've said earlier, the other part related to the Marriage Act belongs to the province of Ntatemtsoaledi and Home Affairs. And I believe they are dealing with them, with the processes related to the Marriage Act and all its regulations. So from our side, we also believe that the Portfolio Committee will also help us, which Honorable Bredenbach also belongs to strengthen the bill to ensure that it achieves the objective of the Constitution and also comply with the Constitutional Court judgment. Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I now recognize Honourable Siti Msimang.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, has the department engaged with Muslim communities, legal experts, and stakeholders to gather input and perspectives on the potential rewriting of Sharia law? And if so, what has been the nature of these consultations? And if not, why not? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable House Chair. We have not engaged with the community, Muslim community, in the context in which the Honorable Member is saying, the context which is the potential to rewrite Sharia law. We do not have an intention as the department to rewrite Sharia law. So there's no need for us to engage with the community in that context. But we do engage with all the stakeholders, including the Muslim community, with regards to this divorce amendment bill, which is aimed to comply with the Constitutional Court judgment, to protect the vulnerable children born out of a Sharia marriage when there is a divorce. That is the context in which we are engaging with all the stakeholders in relation to the bill. And we have also been very clear, Honorable House Chair, even in this House, that all engagements and the engagements we're also having here, it's about the bill at the stage of divorce, which is what the Department of Justice is engaged in. We are not rewriting Sharia law. We are dealing with the Divorce Act Amendment Bill. And this bill is in compliance with the Constitutional Court, and it's also aimed to comply with the Constitution in regards to equality and also to protect vulnerable children and women. And we engage with the stakeholders in that context, and we will continue to do so even at the Portfolio Committee. And I also believe that the Portfolio Committee, which has all political parties represented, will also engage to strengthen that aspect in the context of the Constitution and the Constitutional Court judgment. Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Question 612 has been asked by Honorable B.S. Kosi to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. Honorable DM, I'm not too sure whether it's still going to be you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I've managed to reconnect.
Thank you.
And will answer the question. The rest of the questions, if any, will be answered by the Deputy Minister, as I will be boarding very soon. Chairperson, in answer to the question from the Honorable Nkosi, I think it's absolutely critical for us to say that the coups that we have had on the continent have been a significant drawback in terms of the development aspirations of the continent, as well as the progress we had begun to record with respect to progressing with silencing the guns on the continent and achieving good governance and progress in sustaining and entrenching democracy on the continent. The 5 countries that have had coups are under sanction by the African Union. There are various committees of the African Union that have been assigned to play the role of facilitator. And as Honorable Member would be aware, it is regional bodies that take the leading role in engaging with transitional governments or other post-coup structures that are put in place in countries that have experienced this disruption. It is not practice for member states of the African Union to continue direct engagements with illegal governments. It is rather the Peace and Security Council of the African Union or designated panels appointed by the African Union or the relevant regional body, which in the case of the Sahel is ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. ECOWAS has imposed sanctions on all the countries that are currently under military transitional governments. Several of those governments have not kept up to undertakings that they made at the inception of the military illegal takeover of power. And it is clear that many of them did not have any good intention to restore democracy in their countries. So we are working closely as a member of the African Union Peace and Security Council with the African Union, as well as with the regional body ECOWAS, and in the case of Sudan, with IGAD, to assist where required. And in fact, we have been in contact with the Transitional Council leadership of Sudan in an effort to assess whether it is possible for South Africa to play a role of support, and we will continue those deliberations. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable B.S. Kosi for the first supplementary question.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the comprehensive response. I know that the emphasis is on regional bodies taking an initiative in restoring order in the affected regions. May I ask then,
what the role of the international community would be in best supporting these efforts in overcoming these challenges.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Well, I think that the first step that we have to take is, if there has been such a takeover of government, the first stage is to ensure protection of the civilian population and, of course, of the government that has been ousted from office, because there tend to be acts of retribution, as you would have seen with respect to Niger. And so the voice that we add to regional communities' actions is to encourage a restoration of democracy and ensuring that the rule of law is restored to countries that are undergoing such a process. In addition, we also recognize that one of the steps that we must undertake is an assessment as to the reasons for military takeover and ensure that we assist countries in particular with the practice of good governance and the provision of public services which satisfy populations' needs. We have noted that in several of the countries that have experienced military takeovers, the ordinary population, the public, have indicated strong support for such takeover, and it's vital, therefore, that governments that are in office ensure that they are responsive to the needs of their people. One fact I've not made reference to is, of course, the very negative role that is sometimes played by external role players whose intention is really to steal the natural resources, mineral resources of resource-rich African countries, and they come in the guise of being an international partner, whereas their intention is to ensure that businesses from their countries become beneficiaries of the natural resources of our African countries. So we have to arrest the negative role of external parties. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable M.G.E. Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, the RIF Republic, it's spelled R-I-F, was declared the first democratic country in the continent of Africa on the 18th of September 1921, before Africa was carved up. Today, 7 million people are colonized by Morocco. Will South Africa help them to regain their democracy that the Honorable Nkosi is championing? So we have an honorable champion promoting democracy. The RIF Republic is on the northwest of Africa, on the southern shore of the Gibraltar Strait, and police stations are manned by Moroccans, and they take all the taxes. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize the Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. South Africa does not have a particular role with the RIF Republic that Honorable Hendricks has referred to, but clearly, with respect to Moroccan occupation of the land of the people of Western Sahara, we have played a supportive role in solidarity with the people of Western Sahara, and we continue to work closely with them to call for them to also enjoy freedom, just as we do with the people of Palestine. We're aware that the people of Western Sahara have their land occupied, their natural resources exploited, and clearly it is South Africa's role and obligation to ensure that wherever there's a colonial presence, that we agitate against that presence and support people struggling for self-determination and freedom to achieve that objective. So not specifically with respect to the RIF Republic, which the Honorable Hendricks referred to, and he referred to 1921 as when imperialism took root in Africa, when the division, the Berlin Conference was held, That was in the late 1890s and not 1921. So the colonization of Africa was much earlier. And of course, we do know that it even preceded that Berlin conference. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable E.L. Powell.
Thank you. Minister, close to 1,000 people have been slaughtered in ethnic killing in Darfur in recent days, and yet your department has said nothing about it. Minister, you are willing to discuss the gravity of some conflicts in cabinet, in public meetings, in parliamentary statements, in the media, but when innocent people die on the African continent, it seems that your department is content with saying nothing. Why is this the case? And when will you publicly take action to condemn what has happened in Darfur over the past week and offer your assistance and condolences? I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now recognize the Honorable Minister.
Indeed, we have offered condolences at the loss of lives at every occasion where such loss occurs. And it is us who have pointed out the neglect of tragedies and conflicts on the African continent. The honorable member does not have to try and remind me about the continent. We have always referred to the neglect of Africa. We've seen this time and time again. We see it with the assistance given to Ukraine, the assistance given to Israel, which totally negates the minimal support given to African countries that are under dire straits due to the colonization by powerful Western countries. So it is not true that we do not care for the African continent. As the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, we're one of the largest development support partners for countries on the African continent and do play a role. But of course, we know that there are negative forces that often deny us this opportunity to play a role of development on the continent. But all death is to be regretted and not to be raised merely for political posturing. It should be a genuine concern, but for all people, Africans, Europeans, Israelis, Palestinians, wherever such abuses occur. And we make reference to all who suffer ill. We do not selectively mention when there's a political opportunity. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable M.K. Mudwedi. You may take the question from the House, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, the coups and uprisings in West Africa have their genesis in the role played by France in that region. And France continue to control of those who lead in order to keep plundering the resources of the region. Have you, together with the African Union, reviewed the role played by France in the countries with the purpose of ensuring that these countries gain full independence from these stubborn colonialist nations? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I recognize the Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Clearly, the African Union works very closely on development issues with every country. But it is important to point out that it is often these governments that have allowed the level of abuse and dominance that exists through countries such as France or other post-colonial powers who exercise a neo-colonial oversight over African countries. So it is the people and the government of those countries, as has happened in Mali and other countries, that they act against those that they believe are bringing negative actions into their country rather than supporting the important obligations of development. Should South Africa be invited by those countries to play a role in development initiatives, certainly South Africa would be ready to play such a role, as we have been discussing with several countries in West Africa. But it is for them to be open to such partnership and for them to be clear that they reject any dominance by a former colony or a former colonizer or a neo-colonial country that seeks to impose a new form of oppression and dominance on African countries. We must take up our own struggles as African countries and governments and ensure that we protect our countries from the negative influence of former imperial countries. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The last question for the day is question 614 that has been asked to the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans. Honourable members, may I proceed? I now recognize Honourable Minister of Defence and Military Veterans League. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable members, we must accept that climate change is real. We must also accept that it is not just hitting South Africa. We've seen across the world, rivers flowing, soils being taken, lives lost, and this has not left South Africa in a better place. I would like to really take the honors and say, yes, defense is the lead department, but it is not. The lead department in the Welisizwe bridges, as announced by the president, is the Department of Public Works. And we work with them because we bring from our side, we bring in the military engineers. And up to about 2 weeks ago, even the designs were detected upon by the Department of Public Works. They are the lead department because the budget goes to them, because the design was with them, because the green fleet had to be procured by them. And as I say, we would go there, take the skill and take our hands and work. But we think that it is a good program because the Welisizwe bridges have been able to reunite and bring dignity to especially the rural communities, to create safe harbor for children to go to school, and to enable people to trade, because as we get in there, as Defense and Public Works, we also bring together the local government and provincial governments. And therefore, with the procurement which Public Works does from the locals for the building materials, business is enhanced. From the people who need to help in the hard work around, the local people get jobs. So all in all, I would say that it is a good program. The second part of the question was saying how many bridges, especially in KZN, have been built thus far. Since 2020, honorable members, we have seen 24 bridges built in KZN. In this current year, 10 bridges have also been completed. We now expect that between the end of November and the end of November and the end of January, that we will have completed 12 more bridges. This, of course, as I said earlier on, will depend on the speed and the quality of materials which Public Works will be able to bring to the fore, so that when soldiers get there, they get on with the business of building. So the integration, as I said, is good because it integrates 4 different segments of government and begins to lay a foundation where you can actually have programs across the government wall to wall. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I now recognize Honourable Mutle for the first supplementary question.
All right. Thank you very much, House Chair. And thank you,
Honourable Lorraine and ICT, can you eject that member, please? Yes, to be out in the system. 2. Yes. Honourable Mutle, you may proceed.
Oh, okay, no, thank you very much, House Chair. Honorable Minister, considering the challenges faced by the department insofar as the fiscus is concerned, how are you intending to collaborate with other departments to develop strategies or measures that will ensure that the ongoing effectiveness and longevity of the Welisizwe Rural Bridge program and its infrastructure initiative in this respect? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Mutle, that was the point of the meeting 2-3 weeks ago between ourselves with the Minister Zigalala and the two departments and the people responsible for the Welisizwe bridges. We had seen one bridge, and as far as defense was concerned, it was not fit, it was not suitable, it did not take into consideration the needs of the people, the animals, the transport, and all, and so we had a full meeting to say what can be done to improve. We also, because we do have a financial issue as defense, when you take people out of defense headquarters and you take them to Natal, you must provide accommodation, you must provide food, you must provide somewhere where they sleep. So our arrangements with every department that we will be in support of is either they, as they approach us directly, are prepared to foot the bill, or there is an arrangement from Treasury to make sure that whatever it is that you expend is made good. Because the other way around is that we are never able to meet up with all our commitments which we have budgeted for, because we keep on deviating and taking the little that we have to go in support of other departments. Other departments have money, we don't. So that is what we are doing. But we think that we couldn't have been in a better world with the building of bridges, because safety amongst the South Africans is paramount for us, especially those who are in the rural areas, who are vulnerable, who are sometimes in very desolate places. It is important for us to participate there. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Honorable SJF Mare.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, the services under Operation Prosper is commendable by the Defence Force. However, you know the consequences of the ongoing unfunded authorizations of deployments, assisting other government departments to comply with their obligations to our citizens, have devastating effect on the financial sustainability of the Department of Defence to fund essential Defence Force prime mission equipment, maintenance and upgrades priorities, and our required defence readiness in terms of our constitutional mandate. How much money is owed by other departments to the Department of Defence for these unfunded services, including the bridges? How much have you been able to recover since, and what will you do to assure that full cost recovery of such unfunded services are secured within the respective financial year of that services? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Honorable Marrer forgets I know the rules. You are putting in a new questions which requires me to bring you figures. In fact, I therefore undertake, Honorable Chairperson, to respond in full on the numbers we have expended in Operation Prosper, because I do not want you to say I misled the House. But we are now beginning to insist that where we get deployed, just as we are doing with ESCO, pay for the services, because otherwise you force us to deviate from what we have budgeted for, and it costs us a bad audit. Because when the Auditor General looks at it, they simply think you have taken a direction you shouldn't have taken, even if it was in the interest of South Africa. And therefore, we're beginning to say that we have offered accommodation for the police trainees. They are paying in kind. They fix the accommodation. They leave it in good state. which means we save on the money to do that. So we will do it with every department there where we can. But we will also not forget that we do have a role to contribute towards making sure that South Africans will safe and free in their country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now recognize Nkosi Ucebekhulu RN.
Ngiyathokoza sihlalo mhlonishwa. Uzwakale kahle ngawuchaza umkhankaso umnyango okuwona ekwakhweni kwamablogo. Kodwa engifuna ukukusho noma ukulandelela sibona umnyango ugcwele kakhulu emabhlogweni la kuwela khona imoto mhlawumbe kuhlanganiswa nawo umphakathi. Sinemfulo emkhulu eKZN. Kunemindeni eyakhe ngaphesha kwemfula izikole zikwelinye icala. Ngabe akhona yini mangaki mayekhona ama-bridge okanye imithantatho nje ewela inyawo nothi imoto ewela nje inyawo ingane uma isona uhlangothi njalo uhlangothi lesikoleni. Ngiyathokoza.
Masibonge Ndabezitha, mphathisi ohloniphekile ungaphendula. Angizukusho ukuthi uzophendula kanjani kodwa uzophendula.
No, ngiyabonga. It was precisely being in Natal, handing over a bridge, that we realized ukuthi some of the bridges are too narrow. They are not catering for communities. They are cars, they are animals to pass. They are not catering for families to walk together. And that is why we have called for a redo. So the engineers from the military are insisting that they will look at the circumstances, and the bridges that we build will be able to progressively allow the communities to integrate, to be able to do business, to walk their animals over, and to be able to really bring back the dignity that the people need in those. So, siwabonile lama bridge angaka baba, which one of them actually only allows one person to go in one direction. And it is difficult. And that is why we said, no, we will not be part of it.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by Honorable WTI Mafanya.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Minister, the SANDF has erected 34, according to you, Bailey type bridges over a period of 2 years. The engineering formation committed to 95 rural bridges. How long will be the balance of 61 bridges take to complete? And at what cost to the SANDF, considering that the SANDF Bailey bridges are depleted? I considered all your answers, Minister. Hence, I put this one as well, knowing that the DPW seems to be in charge of the situation, but at what cost? How much do they pay for the services that are done by the SANDF? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Chair. Thus far, they are required to ensure that the yellow fleet is on the ground, the good material to build bridges of good standard is put in them, and to ensure that by the end of our claim on the SNT, they repay it. It depends on the number of people who are deployed at a time. The number of the bridges that you referred to are the ones that I specifically quoted for KZN. I will avail all the total number for all the bridges. Clearly, because of the issues of getting material on time on the ground, of getting the yellow fleet on time on the ground, we have not been able to do all the 96 bridges. But now we are sure with the Minister Zigalala that we will push and try and meet that target. And that is why throughout this next 2 months, the two departments with the provinces will be flat out building those bridges. So we may not attain the 96 that the President promised, but we will do our best to meet that record. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, as you might have noticed, the time allocated for questions has expired. Outstanding replies received will be printed in hindsight. Honorable members, I request members to stand and wait for the chair and the maids to leave the house. That concludes the business of the day. The house is adjourned.